Well, the old Arcade Theater was built back in 1908. That makes it 115 years old. It was an old vaudeville house, and it fell into disrepairs in the late 1980s, and then they revived it until Hurricane Ian hit and took its toll on the theater. Now, local lawmakers are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sure its life continues here in Fort Myers.
This is our history. This is our downtown.
A theater that once showed some of Thomas Edison's first movies.
Because I think there's something really beautiful about going to a theater and having that original look to it.
Despite water from the Caloosahatchee River filling parts of the old theater during Hurricane Ian.
We had 6 feet of water in the orchestra pit.
And nearly a year later, walls cut out from water damage and carpet missing. The entire rooftop needs replaced.
We had over $2 million worth of damage.
Lawmakers today handed over a state check totaling $750,000. But State Representative Spencer Roach said it almost didn't happen.
We faced a really alarming threat of veto there when the Turkey Watch list came out. Which is an organization that seeks to sort of flag what they consider wasteful spending.
In the end, lawmakers say they persuaded the governor the money was needed.
The funds that are coming into this project will bring a huge return on investment, and not only for the immediate future, but for generations to come.
Just one day after some lawmakers, including State Senator Jonathan Martin, called for more accountability of state money being handed out.
I have all the confidence that the money that's coming here from the state of Florida is going to be spent appropriately.
To ensure that generations in the future can enjoy the historic theater. In downtown Fort Myers, Dave Elias, NBC2.
It's one of the most special places in Florida. The Everglades, a peaceful, swampy grassland and habitat to birds, tree crabs, even bottlenose dolphins, who didn't seem to be camera shy at all.
Oh, he's showing off for you. Yeah, woo!
We set out with the Everglades Day Safari to learn about a native species, just not this species.
See that swirl over there?
Boat Captain Aaron Bartlett took us deep into the mangroves.
Now, we are in the Everglades National Park, the 10,000 Islands area. Everything you see is all protected. See how the red mangrove has the roots that branch out? The natives call these trees a walking tree.
Bartlett's family has been in the area since the 1840s, long enough to see the area change.
The mangroves are essential to the outside islands and protecting the shorelines. But what we've seen here lately is they've encroached more and more inland.
Mangroves serve as an important barrier against storm surge, helping to protect our southwest Florida coastline. But now we're seeing mangroves move inland. Take, for example, this point near the Smallwood Historic Store in Chokoloskee, an area that you could once see the Gulf of Mexico visible for miles, now blocked by islands dominated with red mangroves.
So I've lived in South Florida for pretty much my whole life.
Everglades Day Safari guide Heidi Stacy says the mangroves are important because they serve as a nursery.
You know, when you think of all the commercially valuable species of fish that occur out in the Gulf of Mexico, this is where they spend the beginning of their life.
And now that they're moving inland?
You know, in areas where they wouldn't normally be growing, it's edging out other species. You know, animals are acclimating to this. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just different.
And the change is happening fast.
As you get into the big cypress, there are mangrove trees that are north of the Tamiami now, and that's fairly recent. We're talking in the last 20 years that change has really happened.
And so as sea levels are rising, the salt water is moving inland and upland, and that's creating new habitats that are good for the mangroves to be able to move in.
As global temperatures increase, there are also fewer hard freezes in Florida, allowing mangroves to migrate north.
It is change, right? And that change is always hard. So wherever mangroves are growing now that they weren't 50 years ago, something was there. And I think, got to sort of settle into the fact that what we're experiencing on the planet right now is a time of real change. Part of that will be mangroves will be places that they weren't before, but I think mostly they'll be places where we need them to be.
In the Everglades National Park, meteorologist Lauren Hope, NBC2.
So tell us, what are we going to do here now?
We'll fly the airplane. I have to get my airspeed up, and it shows on the airspeed indicator here. Got to get up to about 110 before we can lift off.
Staff Sergeant Robert Wolitz flew 73 missions on a B-29.
10? It was 10-man crew, and we flew our missions I flew 73 missions to average about 10 hours a mission. But mind you, we did this almost out of high school. I was 21 years old when I flew my first combat mission. I grew up in an awful big hurry.
The airman was a gunner, normally seated in the back of these planes to drop bombs during the Korean War.
My missions, I can recall several of them vividly. After a while, everything just one right after another. We'd take off, go someplace, drop 40, 500-pounders and go back home. You know, it was just day after day after day after day.
Now retired for many years, Wolitz doesn't hit the sky very often, but he does get a chance to sit in the pilot's seat thanks to the Military Heritage Museum.
I could do this in my sleep.
We really believe in this museum in that our main purpose is to provide a safe space so that our volunteers feel comfortable telling their stories, because in turn it actually encourages other visitors, especially veterans, who have been reluctant to tell the stories.
Now, a $14,000 grant from the Community Foundation will make telling stories even easier.
So grants help us, really help the volunteers ensure that their stories will never be forgotten.
The museum plans to use the money to continue adding technology like flight simulators and a learning lab, so veterans like Wolitz can keep passing memories on.
To be able to preserve the history of what actually happened.
Reporting local today in Punta Gorda.
It's what's keeping me alive.
Samantha Surbin, NBC2.
Okay, see if we can come in and without scraping the ground here. So I've got my flaps deployed.
We are on Del Mar Avenue, and this is where Mike Schuttig survived the storm. He was staying at the Periwinkle Motel that's not here anymore, and he jumped on the roof with his girlfriend, his 2 dogs, and they floated to Del Mar Avenue, floated down Del Mar, and they got to these palm trees you see here. And Mike, you know, a year later, you're looking at these palm trees. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling grateful and happy to be alive. Without these trees here, I wouldn't be. Neither would my girlfriend and my dogs.
What have you learned in this last year? How has this year been for you?
It's been a little rough. I mean, this would change anybody. Going through this dramatic, it's hard to explain, but I know I am a different person today.
You know, I can sense some emotion in your voice. You're kind of choking up when you say that. Why do you say you're a different person today?
Well, I mean, how fast death could come to a person. I mean, I didn't know if I was going to make it through it, you know, and not knowing that, and it's kind of scary. It was a split second. 2 seconds later, I could have been dead if I didn't kick that window out.
How are you coping? You know, I know there's a lot of, you know, memories that are flooding back today. How are you coping with everything?
Well, I'm just taking each day as it comes and hoping for the best every day, and just got to keep busy.
You know, the Periwinkle Motel no longer here. How do you feel about, you know, a place that you were staying at no longer being on the beach?
Well, I mean, a lot of places are gone. If we were at the other place we were staying at, that whole house was gone with no debris left in the yard. So, I mean, it's hard because you just ride around these streets and it's unbelievable. There's only a couple houses left in spots.
But you're feeling hopeful?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
So we are here on Del Mar Avenue. This is Mike Schuttig, just one of the many people that rode out the storm here on Fort Myers Beach. And he is staying hopeful that this community will rebuild. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to Kelly and Peter.